Sure. So ADM has developed a unique name brand that's ADM Regenerations, where we're trying to incentivize farmers that adopt regenerative agriculture practices that include cover crop adoption, no-till, carbon intensity scoring, which usually is fertilizer efficiency programs as well. We try to get direct funding to farmers, but also we partner with technical assistance partners at the same time that isn't just cutting a check to farmers. We also want to make sure we set them up for success when they are adopting those practices. So in certain areas like Michigan, we've partnered with Ducks Unlimited to help us with that process as well. So we start off with a consultation from an ADM person with farmers on what the process looks like. And usually we're explaining like which practices are you adopting now, or what are the new practices that you want to adopt. These are what the payment options are. This is when we're going to ultimately pay you. After they agree to move forward with the overall agreement, then we partner with Farmers Business Network to get their data to where we can measure it, report it, and verify it. So they'll ask them their practices, they'll ask their field boundaries, we'll verify that a cover crop was planted and emerged through satellite imagery. And then once that process is done, they have an option of having a consultation with the various partners that we have, Ducks Unlimited, Practical Farmers of Iowa, American Farmland Trust, if they have any questions about what their seed cost should be, how they terminate the cover crop, what switching to no-till may look like, what's a carbon intensity score, how do I lower my carbon intensity score, and then when that process is over, usually March of the following year, so right about now, we'll be cutting checks for those practices. So actually, ADM's journey, we've been on this journey for roughly 10 years of just 10 years ago, we didn't understand, we knew that farmers varied in what practice decisions that they made, but we didn't know what greenhouse gas emissions were, what water quality impacts were. So for the better part of the last 10 years, we've been scaling up our efforts and just trying to understand, because we didn't want to stand up a program that dictated practices or incentivize practices that weren't going to work at the farm operation. We really wanted to meet the farmer where they were. So last year we had a scaled up effort of incentivizing farmers for practices that could work. We ended up enrolling over 1.2 million acres total across over 15 states in the US. And then this year we're trying to expand to 2 million acres. So the one thing that we figured out, there's a little nuance with each of the practices. Cover crops, for example, there's only 6.5% of total acres in the U.S. that are represented by cover crops. So we knew that if we want to get that growth to ultimately happen, we have to partner with the early adopters on cover crops, incentivize early adopters, and then usually we partner with them as well to help us in a lot of our farmer meetings, because we'll have conversations, we'll give a spiel of the soil health benefits, etc. But then when farmers are talking to farmers, that's the most effective way. So specifically with cover crops, we wanted to incentivize early adopters as well. And then in our emission scoring payment as well, if they've been doing no-till for a significant amount of time, more than likely they're gonna have a better score than some of the other people that are in that region. And then our no-till payment tends to vary. Sometimes it's old practices, sometimes it is a new practice on that one, because the adoption curve is a little bit higher. There's 102 million acres that practice no-till annually, so it tends to be like a two-tier incentive for no-till. So in 1977, there was less than 2 million acres of no-till, and this is all NASS data. Less than 2 million acres in 1977. The NASS reported in 2017 there was 102 million acres in the U.S. that was just annual no-till. Yep, so ours are annual. It's 1 year at a time. A lot of these programs are new for a lot of people, and there's a lot of noise out there as well. So there's this education period of trying to understand from a farmer's perspective what we're doing, why it matters to us. And we know that if it's going to be brand new, we can't ask for 5 years or 10-year contracts. Let's go annually. Let's prove ourselves that it's an easy process, that they're going to get payment on time, and then let's build that relationship for a long term. Because the one thing we've found in the last 10 years of standing up these programs is we tend to get 5-year partnerships with farmers without signing 5-year partnerships, because we prove ourselves every single year on being able to perform. When it comes to cover crops specifically, weather happens, and there's issues in planting, there's issues in terminating, so the agreement that we have is an indication of how many cover crop acres that they'll ultimately be planting that year, and then we know that it varies, so we have flexibility specifically in that piece. Emission scoring is just trying to understand what carbon intensity is, and then in future years trying to give them some education on how to potentially decrease their carbon intensity and increase their overall payments as well. ADMadvantage.com, it will have all of our programs that'll have one-pagers in each one of our supply sheds. So we are in 15 plus different states, but we try to build them around our facilities that we have, grain elevators, processing facilities. So we're not everywhere in the U.S., but we are trying to expand. But at admadvantage.com, they should be able to find each region if they want to sign up for a program, and then they can put their contact information. We'll have one of my people reach out to them.